Eastern Europe geography, find the Black Sea, kick up to Kiev in the Ukraine, march up to Moscow, the capital of Russia, cross the Ural Mountains into Siberia, also in Asia, but also in Russia. Eastern Europe geography, find the Black Sea, kick up to Kiev in the Ukraine, march up to Moscow, the capital of Russia, cross the Ural Mountains into Siberia, also in Asia, but also in Russia. History motions for this week. Okay, so we have the French Revolution. So we're gonna start off by marching, and then we're gonna say in 1789, the French Revolution, so F and an R, began, we're gonna march again, began when citizens stormed the Bastille and fought for the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Later, during the Reign of Terror, the aristocrats' heads were removed by guillotine. Let's do it with the music.
Revolution. In 1789, the French Revolution began when citizens stormed the Bastille and fought for the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Later, during the Reign of Terror, the aristocrats' heads were removed by the guillotine. In 1789, the French Revolution began when citizens stormed the Bastille and fought for the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Later, during the Reign of Terror, the aristocrats' heads were removed by the guillotine.
Let's talk about the French Revolution. So I have read the timeline card number 110. I've read from Everything You Need to Know About World History homework, from the Story of the World, and online encyclopedias like the Britannica, and also a website called Ducksters, where they have lots of history lessons and articles on there, and also games and word puzzles, crossword puzzles, things that you can do directly related to, like this week's is on the French Revolution. So I've provided the link if you want to check those out. And I am just going to try to provide you with a concise understanding of the French Revolution. I am not going to be able to get into everything that happened. There will be lots of things that I leave out, lots of details and cool, interesting facts that I just don't have time to get into in this video. I am just trying to provide you with a concise nugget of information so that you can have some grasp of an understanding on what happened in the French Revolution. And my hope is that it will spark your interest in history and that you will want to learn more about these major historical events, that you'll want to read and do research, and that it will be interesting to you like it's interesting to me. So let's get into it. Our history sentence this week says, in 1789, the French Revolution began when citizens stormed the Bastille and fought for the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Later, during the Reign of Terror, the aristocrats' heads were removed by the guillotine. So, what was the French Revolution? The French Revolution was a period of time in France when the people overthrew the monarchy and took control of the government. What was the desired outcome of the revolution? What did these revolutionaries want? Well, you can see here, this is a well-known revolutionary slogan that states the three main goals. liberty, equality, and fraternity. Liberty meaning that everyone would have all of their natural rights and freedoms. Equality meant that everyone would be equal in the eyes of the government. Do away with privilege. Do away with the feudal system. Fraternity meaning brotherhood. This was the desire that everyone would get along and respect each other's rights. So what caused the French Revolution? In order to understand what caused the revolution, we need to take a moment to understand what life was like for the people of France. Now remember when we talked about feudalism in Europe and how there's levels of society? Well, before the French Revolution, France was about as feudal of a regime as it gets. It had these three estates, or these three levels in society. You had the church and the clergy, nobles, and the king was an absolute monarch. So he was not bound to a constitution that he had to rule from. He was the head honcho. The king and the nobles lived very well and paid very few taxes. They lived in luxury and had all of the high-ranking jobs. Then the third estate was the common people. These are the people who paid most of the taxes, and sometimes they starved because the taxes were so high. And most of the French population was in this estate. And you can see in this little picture here, these are members of the first or second estate, the nobles. So the country is set up in these classes, this feudal system. And this was an unfair system of government where the king and his court had absolute power and the government was bankrupt. So like I said, we've got these levels in society where the rich paid very few taxes and the common people were forced to pay most of the taxes. This meant that the rich lived in extravagance, while the majority of the country lived in extreme poverty. And when the king needed even more taxes, when the country needed more money, the common people refused. Food was also scarce. Bread, which was the main part of a peasant's diet, was priced very high by 1789. And you can see here Marie Antoinette saying, "Let them eat cake." Well, she probably didn't really say that, but it is a good image. It's a good idea for you to have in your mind of sort of her attitude towards the people. The monarchy was indifferent to the fact that these people were starving and living in poverty, and it was just more than the people could take. So they formed the National Assembly. So at this time, France was fighting a war and they needed to figure out how to pay for this expensive war. So their king called a meeting with representatives from each of the estates to discuss raising money and increasing taxes. The third estate, the common people, tried to use this meeting to reform the government, but the king refused to give them any power. So they formed the National Assembly. The National Assembly met at a tennis court and decided to demand a new constitution, and they agreed to stay together until one was written. So it's called the Oath of the Tennis Court. This group of people took control of the government during the revolution. So we have the storming of the Bastille. What is a Bastille? It's a storehouse of ammunition. It had lots of gunpowder, and it was the royal prison. The Bastille was a symbol of the monarchy's rule as dictators. So the storming of the Bastille marked the beginning of the French Revolution, when an angry mob attacked the Bastille and seized control. And on July 14th, every July 14th in France, they celebrate Bastille Day as their Independence Day. The Declaration of the Rights of Man. This declared France as a constitutional monarch, meaning France would be ruled by a constitution and the power of the monarch would be limited. So when they stormed the Bastille and they fought for the Declaration of the Rights of the Men, this is what they were fighting for. Limit the monarchy's power in France to be ruled by a constitution. So this man, Marquis de Lafayette, wrote France's Declaration of the Rights of Man. He also collaborated with Thomas Jefferson to write America's Declaration of Independence, and it is said that he fought alongside Americans in the Revolutionary War, but he was a very important figure in the French Revolution. Just as a note, while this was happening in France, at the same time, the American Revolution was also happening. The Reign of Terror. So later, during the Reign of Terror, this is what we're talking about. From the summer of 1793 to 1794, the revolution was increasingly more violent. At this point, the revolutionaries had overpowered the monarchy and they had taken control of the country. The revolutionary leaders were known as the Committee of Public Safety. Soon, the Reign of Terror was instituted and the revolutionary leaders began to use fear and violence by executing hundreds of people each week. Why? Well, they feared that not enough people supported the revolution, so they killed those who were against the revolution. And some of those people we learn about in our history sentence. It says the aristocrats' heads were removed by the guillotine. So why were the aristocrats' heads removed? Well, the aristocrats were killed during the French Revolution because of the anger felt by the masses of the poor French citizens. Aristocrats were nobles or members of the French monarchy. And the revolution was all about changing the relationship between the rulers and the people they governed. The guillotine. This is a little bit of a gruesome picture here. You can see the guillotine and you can see the person laying there and what's happened to them. This device consists of a heavy blade that is dropped between the two guideposts onto the neck of one sentenced to death. This was widely used during the French Revolution to behead aristocrats. So how did the revolution end? The revolution ended after the Reign of Terror and the deaths of the most ruthless leaders. After the chaos of the revolution, a military genius named Napoleon Bonaparte got France in shape. He brought order and was very successful in turning France into an empire. And we'll talk more about him in week 12. Why is the French Revolution important? I just am going to quote this website. I thought they said it so well. The French Revolution completely changed the social and political structure of France. It put an end to the French monarchy, feudalism, and it took political power from the Catholic Church. It brought new ideas to Europe, including liberty and freedom for the commoner, as well as the abolishment of slavery and the rights of women. Although the revolution ended with the rise of Napoleon, the ideas and reforms did not die. These new ideas continued to influence Europe and helped to shape many of Europe's modern-day governments.
What are the phases of the moon? The phases of the moon are new crescent, quarter, gibbous, full. What are the phases of the moon? The phases of the moon are new crescent, quarter, gibbous, full.
For timeline motions this week, we start with Norman conquest and feudalism in Europe. So we're going to assign conquer for Norman conquest and feudalism in Europe. This is when we learned about William the Conqueror. Remember, he was a Norman Viking and he conquered Europe and began feudalism in Europe. Then we have the Crusades, which was Richard the Lionhearted. And so we're going to make a heart over our heart and we're just going to push it out. So the Crusades. Then we have Zimbabwe and early Mali in Africa. So Zimbabwe means enclosure or wall of stone. So you're going to make two B's, turn them and face you, and then you're just going to make a wall around yourself. So Zimbabwe, and then early Mali. So we make an M, Mali in Africa. And so we're going to assign for gold because Mali dominated the gold trade. Then we have Aztecs of Mesoamerica. We're just going to make a triangle for the pyramids of the Aztecs. And then Francis Assisi and Thomas Aquinas. So you make an F. So Francis, not the French. Francis Assisi and Thomas Aquinas. So do an F and a T. And then Japan's shogun. So you're just going to pretend to pull a sword out of your hip for Japan's shoguns. And then Incas of South America, they lived in the Andes Mountains. So make a mountain, and then we're going to climb the mountain.
Norman conquest and feudalism in Europe, the Crusades, Zimbabwe, and early Mali in Africa. Aztecs of Mesoamerica, Francis of Assisi and Thomas Aquinas, Japan's shoguns, Incas of South America.
All, another, any, anybody, anyone, anything, both, each, either, everybody, everyone, everything, few, many, more, most, neither, nobody, none, one, other, several, some, somebody, someone, such. These are indefinite pronouns. These are indefinite pronouns. These are indefinite pronouns, weeks 11, 12, and 13. All, another, any, anybody, anyone, anything, both, each, either, everybody, everyone, everything, few, many, more, most, neither, nobody, none, one, other, several, some, somebody, someone, such.
Ero, eris, erit, Aramis, eritis, errant, first conjugation, future perfect tense. Ero, eris, erit, Aramis, eritis, errant, first conjugation, future perfect tense.
For math this week, we have cubes. So last week we had squares where we times a number by itself. And this week we're going to times a number by itself 3 times. So this is like saying x to the third power, or a number to the third power. So instead of saying 1 times 1 is 1, or 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, I'm just going to say 1 cubed is 1. 2 cubed is 8. 3 cubed is 27. 4 cubed is 64. 5 cubed is 125. 6 cubed is 216. 7 cubed is 343. 8 cubed is 512. 9 cubed is 729. 10 cubed is 1,000. 11 cubed is 1,331. 12 cubed is 1,728. 13 cubed is 2,197. 14 cubed is 2,744. 15 cubed is 3,375.
1, 8, 27, 64, 125, 216, 343, 512, 729, 1,000, 1,331, 1,728, 2,197, 2,744, 3,375. 1, 8, 27, 64, 125, 216, 343, 512, 729, 1,000, 1,331, 1,728, 2,197,